5 years ago, when Adobe first showed me the Creative Cloud, I thought that it was awesome. I thought that the idea of what they were trying to do sounded really good. But 1 year later, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years after that, even up to a couple weeks ago, 5 years after they told us that the Creative Cloud was the future, I had me as a consumer, me just average guy who shoots videos and photos, hadn't really seen any of that in practice. I got that the concept was there, that they really thought that they could go somewhere with this cloud-based software architecture, but it never really made it trickle down to me. I know that there are teams for major Hollywood feature films that they can all work off the same files and work with the same files all together at different locations, and I think that sounds really cool, but Adobe has never made that available for reviewers like myself to test out with their teams to see how it works and how well it works. All we have to go on are the words of these Hollywood professionals who say it's great. And while I probably believe them because I don't think they're going to make that up, I can't speak from my own experience there because it doesn't exist for me. So what I end up doing is sharing files with like Dropbox or something, and it's just not ideal. So even though I have this Creative Cloud, I've never really used the cloud aspects of it. I mean, we got some stuff with Lightroom and Lightroom Mobile, and then now with Lightroom CC. The idea of being mobile and not, it makes sense, but it's just not practical or necessary for a professional yet. I think we're getting pretty close. I think 5 years later, we're there, or at least getting there, and it's especially evident with Project Rush, which has been just announced as Premiere Rush. Totally separate platform, still compatible with Premiere, but very different. So let's take a look.
People are fascinating with cloud. Okay, there are all sort of the things going on in the cloud, and Adobe really want to participate. But with Adobe's strengths, okay, we have a lot of Creative Pro user. We have Photoshop, we have Acrobat. So Acrobat Cloud, Photoshop Cloud. Okay, but what that mean? Okay, because you cannot just say Photoshop running on the cloud. Well, we try it, doesn't seem to work, right? So these days I've been contemplating what does it mean, right? And what I got so far is yes, our user is right. They love Photoshop, but they don't necessarily ready to use Photoshop right away, right? So cloud and Photoshop should have a different meaning than when you take a look at Photoshop.
That was Jeff Chen. Jeff Chen is one of the original software engineers for Photoshop. That was an interview from back in 2013 that I did at Adobe, and I asked Jeff to talk a little bit about the cloud because it was still not really clear back then what they meant by that. And if you look at Jeff there describing what he thinks cloud is, there's definitely been a call from higher ups that they need to move to cloud. He doesn't really have a firm grasp of what that means. He mentions that putting Photoshop or Acrobat in the cloud, what does that mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily work to have a full piece of software living somewhere not on a computer, and even today that doesn't make a lot of sense. They toyed with the idea of having processing done in the cloud, and they still do that, but actually putting a full program up there makes no sense. And you can see him thinking, what does that mean for us? How can we do it? We need to separate the ideas of Photoshop and cloud maybe and see what that means to them. But what should be telling there is they've already announced that they went CC at that point. So even after going there, one of their most storied developers still didn't have a firm grasp on what that meant. Like, where were they going? They may not have known at the time. I think now they know. I think now they're really deciding that they can do it. And I hate to say that any company was ahead of their time, especially in this type of situation. I think more than that, Adobe jumped the gun. I think that they wanted to be somewhere that technology just simply wasn't allowing for. I think that when they decided that they were going to do all of this cloud-based stuff, that not only was hardware woefully underpowered to handle it, but so was the software and so was the networking systems of 2013. 5 years in advance of that, now in 2018, we finally, I think, are there. And with Rush specifically, it runs very smoothly on both my desktop and my iPad Pro and my iPhone. It works on all of these with a singular experience across all three without any major hitches or problems. And though the program itself is not particularly robust, in fact, I would go so far as to say it's bare bones, It's got something about it tells me that it's going to get there. And I'm pretty excited about it. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen Adobe do something like this. So Premiere Rush, I don't think will ever. It's hard to say. I don't want to bank on it not replacing Premiere, but in its current form and how they're marketing it, I don't think it will ever get there. Unlike with Lightroom CC, which actually will probably replace Lightroom Classic at some point. In both cases, it's a complete software architecture rebuild for both applications. Adobe took a gamble years ago on what would power all of our machines, what would give them the ability to process stuff, and they picked something that didn't end up being what most computers today use to process a lot of data. So if you've ever used Premiere or you've seen the problems with Lightroom over the years, they struggle with the original architecture. And the only way to get beyond that and to really make their programs fast again is to completely rebuild them. And Lightroom CC is a complete rebuild from Lightroom Classic. It's not sharing the same original software architecture, and the same can be said for Project Rush. It is a completely standalone, different platform, though with Rush, those files are compatible with Premiere. It can still read them. So that's kind of a smart way to do it. The other company that tried this was Apple. And if you remember when Final Cut 10 originally launched, it flopped and actually gave Adobe the chance to bring Premiere to the forefront of video editors, because Final Cut's original 10 was so different than what anyone who had used Final Cut before had become used to, that it was just completely unusable. And that was because they had to completely rewrite their code. And now Final Cut's actually quite powerful and it's being used again. But it took them up until a couple years ago to get it to that point. Looking at Rush is probably going to be a faster platform overall for a couple reasons. One, it's got a lot less going on it. Like I'll show you in a second here, but there are very few options with anything for editing. Like you can get some basic editing done, but it's definitely got I can't even put a fraction on it because there's so few options here compared to Premiere Pro. But also, I think the original, the base core architecture of the software is going to make better use of a computer's ability to process information. So let me show you what that means. So this is what a main menu in Premiere Rush looks like. You have your files here. We can actually get more files on the side. You can see we can drag new ones in here over the top if we want to move them around. Let me show you what it looks like if I choose to lift and move one of these clips onto a different nonlinear point. You can see that below they are popping and around. So like if I drop this here, this clip set below it immediately moved over to fill that gap. But if I drop it in, it goes back into that same spot. And if I can place this over and under, and it's smart enough to know not to push stuff around there, but if I move it onto another timeline, it kind of shrinks in. So this type of action is pretty common in something like an iMovie, and I think this happens in Final Cut too. I'm not 100% positive though, but that definitely does not happen by default in Premiere. I don't know if it can happen in Premiere. I've never used it. Stuff like that, the way that this works is supposed to make editing much, much easier. So on a desktop, that's not super necessary, but like on an iPhone or on an iPad, that might become a more useful feature where you're like, oh, that makes sense. I don't have to move stuff around as much. I don't have to grab all the clips to the right of this one and bring them over. It does it automatically. So let's take a look at what else this thing can do. So in addition to just being able to drag clips and add transitions, by the way, which there are very few, there are 3 transitions built into this from the get-go, and I don't see a way to add more. No, that you can't add more. Cross dissolve, dip to black, and dip to white are the only ones available, or no transition. And you can change the duration of that transition from in here too. But that's a far cry from what's available in Premiere Pro. So another thing in here are titles. You get actually quite a few baked in animated titles. Let me show you what this one looks like. Change the fonts, the styles, the colors. Like I can change this from yellow. Now this is kind of cool because as that one goes away, you're going to see that this one is the exact same title, but all I did was just change how much text was in it. And when you do that, it automatically makes it larger. Something else I want to point out is that you can adjust the looks of your footage. So in this case, it comes with built-in presets, and you can build your own presets but they have to be built inside of Rush. You can edit anything and save it as a preset, create preset here, but it's not the same as a LUT. You can't import LUTs into this. You can only use the ones that Adobe has created here, and anything you can build with their somewhat lackluster system here. It's not as robust as the Lumetri color panel in Premiere, and it's just not as good. As you can see that it shares a lot of the features with it, and what is here works pretty much the same. It just doesn't have scopes, it doesn't have curves, doesn't have any of that. So just know that going in, it's definitely not as full-featured as Premiere. You can see, though, I was able to adjust some log footage okay. It's not my favorite. I wish it was better, but it's better than nothing. At least you can create looks and edit them. And this one, too, I shot this clip in log, and you can see I had to adjust it. You also have audio adjusting here. It's pretty basic. You can adjust the clip. You can adjust channels. Let me actually select something so you can see the channels here. You can have it auto duck if you have another clip coming in. This one will auto duck under it, which is cool. And you can mute and change the volume, and that's it. There's not anything else. And then you can also change aspect ratios and scales and that sort of thing. Of if you have like a clip that's 1080 and you're trying to fit it with one that's 4K or vice versa. What is neat about this, and I think the strongest selling point of Rush, is that everything you see here is available here. So I'm going to pop open a file and I'll show you. When I go into this, I have the exact same experience here. And the exact same, like it's identical. Everything here is identical. The same button locations, the same controls, everything is the same on any platform you use this on, and I think that is really cool. And the more that they can expand this to have more features, the better it'll get. And today they also announced that they put full Photoshop on iPads, so you know it's possible that they can build that into Rush and give us a full feature near Premiere level, if not at Premiere level experience. But anything you edit here saves to the cloud. Anything you edit on the desktop saves to the cloud, and all that data is shared. Now, you might think, this is 4K footage. How is this not taking forever to sync with my iPad? It automatically is creating proxies, and the proxies that it made for the 4K footage were 1080, and it sent them to the cloud, and it downloaded, and it took less than 10 minutes to do all of that, from sending it up to bringing it all the way back down to my iPad. You can export from both locations, from the highest resolution available, so I can export 4K here, I can export to 1080 here. And I think one of the benefits of doing it on like an iPad, for example, is that here it's not on this screen. It's not available as far as I can see, but this one allows you to change the orientation so that if you decide I need to make one for Instagram, you could actually create that here, exactly the correct square size that you want. And that is somewhat valuable for a mobile workflow. And really, that's really all there is to Rush. And let's next take a look at how much this is gonna run you. So it's available now from the App Store, and Google Play is coming in 2019. But for Apple devices, you can get access to Rush for $10 a month, and as the standalone only platform you're using, if you want to do it. $10 a month or $20 a month if you are on Teams, which is something that, again, I've never tested. I'm sure it works great. I don't know. But if you have Teams already, you can add $20 a month more to that and get access to it for your Teams. Or $30 a month to enterprise customers. It's also included with if you buy any of the CC apps. So if you buy their full suite, it comes with it. If you have Premiere Pro as a single app, it comes with it. If you have the student plan, it comes with it. And it comes with 100 gigabytes of CC storage when you do get it, which is going to be extremely helpful because these files are going to be much larger than photo files, so you're going to need a lot of storage space for them. Luckily, it's sending proxies, so those files are much smaller than any 4K files. Is this worth $10 a month to buy a standalone? Hard to say. I don't think it's going to be yet. I think that this platform will be great if you are... I think that anyone who's looking to buy this for the $10 a month is, you might want to just buy Elements. It might be better to buy Elements. It's a more fully featured app, and right now the fact that you can edit on iOS or on your desktop is really the only advantage I can see to Rush. Eventually, if they add more full features to it, yeah, it's going to be awesome. It'll be really great, and we'll check back with Rush in a couple months to see how that's going. But right now, Rush as a standalone probably is not worth $10 a month. It will be eventually, though. I have pretty strong faith that it will be eventually. So when it is, I'll hit you back and let you know. But for now, I think your best bets are going to be Elements and Premiere Pro. With Rush, will eventually, I think, slip in there and become a better platform later on. That's all for now. I urge you guys, if you can have access to Rush, to give it a shot, see what you think. Let me know what you think of what Adobe's doing here, and if it's finally reaching that cloud promise that they promised to us years ago. And we'll catch you later.